So, I've got a theory about Boba Fett being in The Mandalorian that has been tossed around the internet ever since the end of Episode 5, titled The Gunslinger. So, Season 1 came to a truly exciting close, but we never found out who the person was approaching Fennec Shand at the end of Episode 5. However, many fans have speculated, myself included, that it has to be none other than Boba Fett. I have a few reasons for this following the Season 1 finale titled Redemption, but before we go any further, I'm slapping a spoiler warning for the entirety of Season 1, so if you haven't seen it, check it out. Here we go. Okay, I figured I'd quickly go over the three main reasons Episode 5 of The Mandalorian tells us it has to be Boba Fett at the end, and then I'll jump to my newfound evidence from the final episode. Okay, so first, and probably the most grounded piece of evidence we have, is the sound that Boba Fett's boots make. During The Empire Strikes Back, when Darth Vader orders Fett to prepare Han Solo for carbonite freezing, Fett follows hastily behind Vader and a very distinct jingle of spurs can be heard as he walks.
Lord Vader,
You may take Captain Solo to Jabba the Hutt after I have Skywalker.
He's no good to me dead.
He will not be permanently damaged.
Lord Vader, what about...
That same jingling is almost the exact same noise heard at the end of Episode 5 of The Mandalorian. Second, we have the blatant reference to Boba Fett during a line of dialogue spoken by the Mandalorian himself. After capturing Fennec Shand, Mando advises the new bounty hunter, saying, "She's no good to us dead." Now, this is obviously a nod to the famous bounty hunter in The Empire Strikes Back when he himself says,
He's no good to me dead.
Perhaps it's a Mandalorian motto. Third, we have the location. Episode 5 of The Mandalorian takes place on Tatooine after our bounty hunter stops to repair his ship. Tatooine was the place where Boba tragically fell into the Sarlacc pit after a dazed Han just so happened to knock him off the ship. It's also worth noting that The Empire Strikes Back was the 5th episode of the saga, while The Gunslinger is also the 5th episode of The Mandalorian. Now that might be a bit of a stretch, but oh well. Okay, so what information did the season finale of The Mandalorian provide us to further this theory? Well, following their escape from Moff Gideon and his escort of stormtroopers, The Mandalorian leads Baby Yoda and company through the sewers of Navarro, where they find the Mandalorian blacksmith. She finally sees the child that caused so much commotion, and she tells the Mandalorian of an ancient order of people called the Jedi, explaining how they had special abilities just as Baby Yoda does. Despite the Jedi being enemies of the Mandalorians, though, she explains how this one does not seem to be a threat, seeing as he saved the Mandalorian from a mudhorn. So she decides he's not strong enough to be a Mandalorian, and she tells Mando that he needs to return Baby Yoda to his people, either the Jedi or the creatures of his same species, which we do not know yet. Now, I think this will put Mando on the search for other Jedi in Season 2, and that is exactly why I think Boba Fett will show up. If we go back to Season 2 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, during the episode titled Death Trap, a young Boba Fett tries to assassinate Mace Windu by bombing his quarters. His hatred for the Jedi, specifically Mace Windu, is rooted in the fact that Windu literally decapitated Jango in front of little Boba. His plan to kill Mace failed, despite being so close to killing him and Anakin, and he is detained by the Galactic Republic. He later escapes and tries to prove himself to be a leader in front of a gang of other bounty hunters in Season 4's episode, Bounty. Here he meets Asajj Ventress, and she immediately humiliates him by saying, "I don't take orders from someone of your obvious lack of experience." Now, she's no Jedi, but she closely resembles one since she wields lightsabers and uses the Force, so perhaps to Boba she's just like the rest of them. After being patronized, humiliated, and disrespected by the Jedi, Boba Fett's hatred for them only grew. Then it was Luke Skywalker, another Jedi, who helped free Han Solo from execution in Return of the Jedi. So if Boba Fett did survive the Sarlacc pit, I'd imagine his hatred for the Jedi is at its all-time high. And seeing as the Mandalorian will now be looking for them, I think it likely Boba and Mando will run into each other. My last piece of evidence lies in this. Jon Favreau, executive producer of The Mandalorian, recently posted a picture on Instagram that said, Season 2 of The Mandalorian coming fall 2020. But look at the picture. Yes, that is a Gamorrean, the same burly creatures that are seen in Jabba's palace on Tatooine in Return of the Jedi and Star Wars The Clone Wars. What's the Mandalorian doing back on Tatooine? And if Boba Fett did survive, did he go to the only safe place he knew of on Tatooine? Jabba's palace? The ties and connections to Boba Fett's return are piling up, and I don't see any reason for Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni not to put him in the show. But what do you think? Will Boba Fett make a grand return to the Star Wars universe in The Mandalorian? Because I sure hope so. Well, that's it, guys. Boba Fett's return explained. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.